In our next session, several farmers and ranchers who were early adopters of online advocacy will break down how engagement has evolved, share their success stories, and discuss what response methods and tactics we should perhaps leave behind as we continue to stand up for our livelihood and our farming and ranching lifestyles. Thank you to National Cattlemen's Beef Association for sponsoring this panel. Our panelists include Brandi Buzzard of High Bar Cattle Company, known for her online presence as Buzzard's Beat, Debbie Lyons-Blythe of Blythe Family Farms, and Carrie Mess, dairy farmer also known online as Dairy Carrie. I'll turn things now over to Tyne Morgan to moderate this discussion.
Thank you, Emily. I appreciate it. Hope everyone enjoyed lunch, and this afternoon it will be an interactive discussion. We're just kind of chit-chat, so excited to have you.
Our mic's from this side.
You want to switch?
Yeah.
You got, it's your stage. You just tell me where to go.
It's our stage.
Wow. But I did drink out of this one, and it's, COVID, so I better not do that because I'll get in trouble. So,
good.
Let's go here. All right. You good?
Yeah. Good.
Right.
Thanks for being flexible.
Oh my gosh, of course. Thank you so much for joining us. We're excited to really talk about, the engaging side of the Alliance and really look at how you were doing a great job of engaging, but also imagine you've learned a lot of lessons over the past several years, so we could share those too. So first, why don't each of you just introduce yourself and give a little bit of a background about how you have been and continue to be involved in the advocacy side of it.
Okay. My name is Brandi Buzzard. I am the owner of High Bar Cattle Company, which is a purebred Gelbvieh and seed stock, Gelbvieh and balancer operation in southeast Kansas, about an hour south of here. I've been involved in advocacy for about 13 or 14 years, since 2008, and I got started because there was a columnist at Kansas State University who was writing some really, what I believe to be atrocious things about agriculture, about how milk caused osteoporosis and things of that nature, and I finally just had it, and I wrote my own letter to the editor, which was 3 times longer than they would take, and so I reached out to a friend of mine at Cattle Network, and asked him, what do I do in this situation? I want to share this message and reach people and help people learn more about beef and, where their food comes from, and he was like, oh, well, send it to me, and I'll take a look at it, and I'll tell you what I think, and he just put it in drovers, and so that was just kind of how I got started. So I thought that was a cool experience, and I wanted to keep doing that, and so I started a blog, and here we are, blog and Instagram and all the social media things. So,
all the platforms.
All the platforms, yes.
And rancher, not a farmer, I see on your name.
Yeah, so I don't have anything, I have it marked out. I don't have anything as farmers, I just don't farm anything. We don't plow or harvest anything, so rancher. Cows. I'm going to take my necklace off. I'm sure you guys at the back are probably take that thing off.
I feel your pain. Every week they're Tyne, your earrings are too big. It's impacting the microphone. Please take them off.
I don't go anywhere. So I was excited.
Well, I'm sure people were admiring the necklace anyway. Debbie?
So I'm Debbie Lyons-Blythe, and I'm the old lady of the group, but I think these guys started when they were babies advocating. So back in 2008, first I'm a cattle rancher, right, in the Flint Hills of Kansas. I ranch with my kids and my husband, and we have a registered Angus operation and a heifer development program. But in 2008, I hosted a family get-together, and it was some of the family who will eventually own part of our ranch. But nobody except us is home on the ranch anymore. So this gal is my husband's cousin's daughter. Okay, right? And she lives in Denver, and she has a bunch of little kids, and we were cooking dinner. I had a big, full grill of hamburgers, and I'm flipping burgers, and she comes up behind me and she whispers real quietly, Debbie, we can't eat that much beef. And I said, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And she says, no, all the antibiotics in it. And I just thought, wow. And then I'm pouring, my kids and the dairy farmers in here appreciate this. So we're big milk drinkers, and so I'm pouring great big glasses of milk for my 5 kids and her bunch of kids too, right? And she says, whoa, Debbie, that milk's not good for you. She said, it has all of that plastic from the container and hormones in that milk. And I said, okay, we got to talk, right? So, and I love to tell that our highest milk consumption week, so I have 5 kids, was 16 gallons in 1 week. Yeah, we love milk. We love it. My boys would come home from football practice and drink a big glass of milk. Anyway, so I realized this young lady, young mom, who lives in metropolitan Denver, but who could eventually own part of our ranch, pass it down through generations, she does not know the answers to those questions. And it's not her fault, right? We've been so busy just growing the food that we've not communicated even to her. So right then, I started a blog. I just decided it was time. I got on Facebook because I had to pay attention to what my kids were doing on Facebook and realized I had to start connecting.
And so then after you connected, now, that was 2008, now in 2022, does she fully understand what goes on the ranch?
She really does, but we have an interesting society these days, and especially in Denver. So when she first went back armed with a lot of knowledge back in 2008, she was really excited to share that information with her friends, and they ridiculed her for it. They would look in her shopping cart, her neighbors, and judge her based on what she bought. And that's not good. That's not right. And so today, originally she changed grocery stores, right? That's sad. But she said, Debbie, we've got a bunch of kids, and if we drink a lot of milk, she does too. Yep. And she said, we can't afford milk because they thought they had to buy the special milk in a glass container. And she said, I'm so glad to know I can just buy milk and it's safe.
Yeah.
So she has changed today, and she does help me on social media. And whenever I think of connecting with consumers, I think of her. Wow. And how does it resonate with her?
Yeah, so that's definitely a good sector to keep in mind. I mean, that mom guilt,
yep,
we know is real and drives a lot of some of the misconceptions out there. All right, Carrie, talk about your background. How did you get started?
Yeah, so I'm Carrie. I'm from Wisconsin. I farm in partnership with my husband and his parents, and then we have 2 little boys that make me real tired running around. So, but I didn't grow up on a farm. I had no real farm connection. I had my great aunt had cattle, and she was my favorite in the family. I don't think anyone from my family's watching, so I can say that. And so, she'd take me to horse fair, and I got into horses, and then horses turned into the gateway drug for the rest of agriculture for me. My high school had an FFA program for exactly 4 years, and it was the 4 years that I was in school. So, I got involved in FFA as a horse chick. I showed miniature donkeys at our county fair. So I have no shame, clearly. But that's what I had available to me, and that was where it started. And I ended up meeting the son of dairy farmers, and we dated each other's friends, and eventually ended up together, got married. He was not the kid that was coming back to the farm, and now we both are farming. And I started social media because after we got married, I kind of was like, well, I think maybe I want a dairy farm. And I went to my in-laws and I'm like, will you hire me? Their hired hand was leaving, and I said, will you hire me? And they did not say yes. So I quit my job. I forced the issue. And luckily for everyone involved, mostly the cows, I found my passion. I just love farming. And so as I was learning, I was on Facebook and MySpace at the time, and Twitter eventually. I was just sharing what I was learning because I found it fascinating, and I was connected to all these people from my life growing up in the city that didn't know anything about farms, so they were asking me questions, and I became a resource for people to ask their questions. So it built from there, and I started blogging, and I think we're 11 years in on my blog and all the other social media platforms along with it. And my whole thing has just been, I want to be a resource for people to have a person to ask those questions to, like I had when I started.
Perfect. Carrie, next time someone asks you, how long have you been doing this? All you have to say is, well, I started on MySpace. Totally dates you. That's all you have to say.
Yeah.
I immediately knew exactly what.
You're not wrong.
Okay, so Brandi, whenever you create your content, from what I understand, you have a very specific audience in mind. Who is that audience, and really why?
So whenever I don't have like a person the way that Debbie has, like a very specific person, but I'm creating my content for the older millennial parent that is that is very food informed. So there are parents out there who are just buying like the cheapest food on the shelves and they don't really care, and that's totally support that. And then there are parents who are like your cousin's niece, they're like scared to buy the milk on the grocery store shelf, or they're worried about like this package of hamburger versus this package of hamburger. So like that's the person I'm trying to reach. And I arrived at that because when I started my blog in 2008, I was just writing about like agriculture, the kind of stuff that I wanted to write about. Okay. And I wrote my first blog post was about the American Royal, and my family's been going to the American Royal for years, and my parents have competed in the rodeo, and I hope to someday. And so I was writing about that. And to this day, that blog post is like 14 years old or something, and it has less than 100 views. So clearly wasn't resonating with the audience I was trying to reach. And so, I mean, that's a big thing that whenever I'm talking to people about getting started with a blog or something like that is like you have to create content with that specific audience in mind. So everything I create, whether it be a blog post or Instagram or a reel or a Facebook video or whatever, it's with that food-informed person in mind who wants to learn more about rural life or ranching, or how a ranching mom or a cowgirl takes care of her kids, like that kind of specific audience person.
So when you have that specific of an audience in mind, what different medium have you learned that really can target some of that sector and really deliver up the content to where they are?
I feel like it's changed over time, because when I got started, blogs were huge. Like people actually would go and you could grab their attention and they would actually read a full blog post. And now it's more, definitely more Instagram and Facebook. So I still write the blogs, but I promote them on Facebook and Instagram, but I'll put like a couple paragraphs of it, like the real hard-hitting stuff in like the caption or something, and then hopefully they'll click and go to the blog post and maybe read the whole thing. But I am putting more effort into the Instagram and Facebook because that is where more of those people are. I mean, I am an older millennial parent, and I spend more time on Facebook and Instagram than I do reading blogs. So because I am in demographic for kind of that I'm trying to reach, that kind of helps that I can channel like what would I do. So.
Yeah, and a growing number of people, that's where they get their news, is Facebook and Instagram, and that is definitely where they are. Well, Debbie, I mean, you said you're the oldest one on the panel. I would like to say the most experienced on the panel is how I would put it. And you have a lot of experience when it comes to sustainability, too. You've done, that has been a focus of yours for quite some time, and not because, you had to, it's just what you did. But how has your approach to sustainability changed over the years?
So that is a really interesting, we could do a 45-minute panel just on sustainability, right? But I think the foundation of sustainability is that it's a hard concept and it's very complex, right? So the first thing that I do with anybody that I talk to about sustainability is define it in terms that I can grasp. And for me, that is take care of the land, take care of the animals, take care of the people, and make money. Right? And I have never had anyone from consumers to retailers, anybody ever have a problem with that definition. So we've been able to kind of move from a spot of understanding. But the whole idea of sustainability is so complex. We've learned from consumer research that sustainability isn't necessarily the word that they grasp with. So it was for a time, but it was a bad buzzword that nobody really wanted to talk about. But now we can talk about animal welfare. We can talk about how cattle are raised, specifically cattle for me. We can talk about what we do for the environment, how we impact greenhouse gases, and try to correct some of that misinformation that's out there. My biggest frustration with the whole sustainability conversation is that we have poised ourselves as here are the good farmers and ranchers and here are the bad farmers and ranchers. And I'm going to tell you there's nobody in either one of those groups, right? They're all a mixture of all of it. And I think we are coming towards that conversation, and that we see that everybody's got good practices and bad practices. And I live in an amazing place. The Kansas Flint Hills is the most amazing grass in the world, and I'm really, really, really lucky to live there. Not everybody can live there. And by the way, it's not that good, so don't move there. Right? But it is not the same raising cattle in eastern Kansas and the Kansas Flint Hills to western Kansas in the plains, right? It's not the same talking about how to raise cattle in Georgia versus Wyoming. So I was involved many years ago with a retailer that wanted to prove that all of their products were sustainable. And they were making check boxes. If you could check mark off so many boxes, they would buy from you, right? They would sell your product. But I said, you can't do that. You cannot have a series of check boxes work geographically, anything. I mean, especially when you're talking about beef, we have 750,000 cattle ranchers in America. You can't determine sustainability the same way everywhere. So the foundation of it is, are you doing the right thing a lot of the time? And let's continue to get better, right? It's about continuing to get better. And that doesn't even get us into the conversation about methane and how cows can really help us solve the problem with climate change.
Carrie, on the dairy side, can you relate to that?
Oh, I mean, all day, every day, right? We have these conversations constantly where we're looking at big, small, organic, traditional, and everyone has their ideal farm. And the reality of it is that, just as Debbie said, we have the opportunity to improve on every single place we're on. Every practice can be improved. We have so much to do, but we, as you were saying earlier, we haven't communicated that well at all. We've been so busy, focused on what we do, we completely forgot to talk to people. And I, let's push one button right away, right now. This is our own dang fault, you guys. Where we are in these conversations is because we ignored the people who buy our end product for so long. So we're playing catch up, but we're doing it. And we make the joke, we're some of the OGs of advocacy. Like when we started,
and I didn't know what that was.
Yeah, I know, right?
Tell me what that was.
And now we're not supposed to call each other advocates because that's cliche. Now we're advocates for agriculture. We're supposed to pronounce it out. Whatever. But when we started, we knew everybody. We knew the people who were speaking up. Mm-hmm. It was a very small group, and now I don't even know everybody on a single platform. Like, there's so many voices joining, and that is so encouraging. But that leads to some pitfalls as well, right?
Yeah. I was just about to say, it has changed so much when you look at how many more now are sharing that story. It definitely has improved. But, you know, when you go back to just the past 5, 6, 7 years, you know, boycotting has been a very popular practice, and I am married to a very headstrong Texan who will, this day, will not eat at Chipotle. We cannot eat at Chipotle. That is not where he's going to spend his money. You know, still to this day, it's a very popular practice. But do you agree with that? I mean, is that something that, you know, can also harm ag in the end?
It's so funny that you said Chipotle. I will never eat at Chipotle ever again. Ever.
Same.
Ever. I'm going to go on a platform on a... oh, wow. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to get a soapbox here about the boycotting thing, with the exception of Chipotle. Okay? I ate at Chipotle one time in 2008. I didn't even really like the food that much. And then they went off on this whole, like, you know, degrading farmers and ranchers thing, and I have not stepped foot in one. I've actually eaten pizza in the little outside dining of the Chipotle because I was not going to eat Chipotle.
Well, don't feel bad. You're not the only one.
No, I don't
You're
feel
not
bad
the only
about
one.
it. It's just funny that you
feel bad.
Exactly. Zero guilt about this. It's just funny that you brought that up. So, boycotting, I will say that I have boycotted. I have promoted boycotting through blog posts several years ago. I am not a proponent of that now. And the reason being is that if you boycott, not you as in you, but collectively, if in agriculture, we boycott every company that makes a decision or says something that we disagree with, y'all, we're not going to have anywhere to shop or eat. Like, and what kind of message does that send if we are boycotting, I'm just randomly picking a company, okay, so if we're boycotting Pizza Hut, like, if we boycott them and we sick the dogs on them and tear them down and create this whole, like, degrading campaign around them, well, that gives them zero incentive the next time that they're evaluating a supply chain decision or they're thinking about a marketing campaign. We've just, like, bashed the crap out of them. So, like, why would they want to bring us to the table to ask our opinion the next time?
Right.
So I have, again, I'm admitting, I have done the boycott thing. I have done that. I have learned that there are other ways to create meaningful conversations and engage with businesses and brands and grocery shoppers than boycotting. And by calling businesses and brands stupid or something like that. So I'm not a fan of boycotting. Like when, what was the one? Epicurious, the recipe website or whatever, decided that they were not going to host beef recipes anymore. Like, there was a big uproar, and we're not going to use Epicurious. Epicurious doesn't care if agriculture is using their website. Like, we're 2% of the population. And how many people out here or in agriculture are using Epicurious to get a beef recipe anyway? Like, you probably already know how you're cooking your beef, right? Okay, Carrie does, because Carrie does a lot of cooking. Carrie does cooking stuff. So, like, I don't do cooking stuff, so to be fair. But I wrote, like, an open letter to Epicurious and put it on my blog, and by no means am I saying that there's one right way to do advocacy. But I put this letter on my blog, and it was in a, like, pragmatic, respectful tone, and I think it was either the Weather Channel or Newsy saw it and, like, asked me to come on and do an interview with them. And Tara from New Mexico Milkmaid also did the same thing. She was also on the Weather Channel for the same type of issue. And, like, I'm pretty certain if I had said, Epicurious, you idiots, like, beef is great, why are you taking this off? I'm never going to use your website again. I don't think the Weather Channel would have asked me to be on there. And so, like, that's how I'm working to make meaningful change, is by trying to, like, be empathetic and understand that not everybody comes from our background, and by not calling people stupid and boycotting them.
I think that's great. Can I just tag on to that? Brandi, I think that's exactly the foundation. One of the basics that has changed for advocacy, or whatever we're calling ourselves now, influencers. So back in 2008, it was very reactive, right? We were responding to an issue that came up that we had to hit hard and try to react to. Nowadays, I think we've really turned the corner in that we're trying to be more proactive. Let's get the good word out there. Let's get that good feeling out there. Let's make sure there's a feeling of trust and communication first, instead of just always reacting. And that's exactly what we were doing with the boycotts.
Yeah. And I still, like, get fired up about them. I mean, if y'all could have been in my house when I saw that Elon Musk, like, took a space shuttle for 3 minutes in the atmosphere, but let's give up burgers. Or no, it was Richard Branson. Sorry. Yeah. Don't get me started on that. Yeah,
a billionaire.
One billionaire, this billionaire, whatever.
Right.
Like, I'm still angry about these things, and I'm still writing, like, really inflammatory things in blog posts, and then I sleep on it and, like, edit it down and calm down. Like, I'm still mad about it. I'm just not, like,
reactive.
I'm not reacting. I'm still going to use that fiery passion to write things that are slightly less eviscerating than normal.
And it's hard because as people who want to get our voice out there, we know that if we post the inflammatory stuff, you all are going to share it.
Yeah.
We know how to write viral posts, so we've all had viral posts.
I'm not sure I have, but that's okay. You girls are awesome. I just kind of in the background.
But is that what's really benefiting our industry? That's kind of something I think Don Schindler's in the room when we talked once about social media maturity. We've matured, ladies. And what we've realized is that maybe instead of chasing the likes and the shares and the numbers, the actual conversations that we're having, the proactive stuff, is going to be more productive for us, even if for our personal gains, it's not what gets the million likes and shares.
I mean, we still want the likes and shares. If you all want to dish them out, we want them. But I'm not willing to sacrifice building a bridge to get those likes and shares. I could post something negative about Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez and blow up Facebook, and it, like, you know, but I'm not going to do that just for the sake of it, because that's not going to achieve the long-term vision of bringing people into the loop in agriculture and helping them learn more about their food.
Well, you know, going back to the Chipotle thing, I mean, it was all this fear-based marketing. Panera did the same thing. And Carrie, you tell us about your experience with Panera, what you did, and how is that different than boycotting?
It wasn't different than boycotting. It absolutely was boycotting. But with the caveat, I've had this thought a lot of, I'm sitting up here and saying, like, this boycotting thing isn't what we should be doing. So am I a big hypocrite? Maybe. But how I look at it is a little different. At the time, the first big ag boycott was Yellowtail. Hadrick's poured out that bottle of Yellowtail. There was big outcry. And conversations have from that. Panera, their marketing campaign, and this is how social media works too, a lesson that I learned. Their marketing campaign basically had these little pill chickens, and I'm not a chicken farmer, but I do know that chickens are not made out of pills. And that the farmers do not run around on Segways feeding more pills to the pill chickens. Like, I was pretty aware of that piece. So this whole
chickens.
I do have chickens. I do have chickens. I'm really good at chicken math, you guys. It's a whole thing now. My husband hates it. Anyways, so this campaign came out, and it was just really demeaning to farmers, basically saying that farmers who farm conventionally are lazy and they just pump their animals up full of antibiotics so they live. Like, truly, whoa. Probably worse than Chipotle, honestly, I think. So I wrote a big letter, and it got shared and shared and shared and shared, and actually, it was successful. Panera scrapped the entire marketing campaign. Killed it. The problem is online, instead of people focusing on this marketing campaign that was truly bad, they went on after this whole antibiotic-free labeling claim. And you cannot go to a grocery store and find chicken that doesn't say antibiotic-free on it, and you couldn't then either. And so people just started screaming at anyone who used the term antibiotic-free in chicken. And I see antibiotic-free. Is it a label I like? No. But I understand why it exists, because the pervasive thought in the general public was so insistent that there was antibiotics in chicken that they had to do that, and once a couple people did it, then everybody had to do it, because otherwise you were the chicken with the antibiotics, right? So I got the marketing behind it, and I understood it, but social media twisted the true problem of bad marketing and turned it into everyone who does this is bad. We had tractors at Panera's with Pluck Easy Chicken. Easy Chicken was the name of the marketing campaign. It was a big deal. And going back, would I have handled it differently? Yeah, I would have. I still am really glad they pulled that marketing campaign, but I think we could have handled it in a way where maybe in future campaigns they would have talked to some farming ag people first to help build campaigns. They could have been a Culver's, right? But we probably didn't handle that the best.
I was just going to ask you.
That's the maturity, right?
Yeah,
That's how we've matured. That's how we've learned. That's how we've started to address that differently.
At the time, was it the right thing to do?
Maybe.
Maybe. Is it the right thing to do now that we're yelling at every single company that doesn't do things exactly the way we want them to? Not a good look.
And we don't want to come across as the angry farmer.
No.
Right? We need to pay attention to how we are representing, because so many people don't know what a farmer looks like, right? So they see us and think, oh my gosh, the farmers are all angry at these food companies. Heck no. They're selling my product, right? It's excellent. I love these food companies. But I do think that working more in coordination with them, communicating with them, and especially with other influencers and other just people on social media, we have to make a dialogue, and we've learned that, and that's what's important. Find that common ground first.
And like you said, the angry farmer. Like, if the only time that brands and businesses hear from us is when we're ticked off, right?
Yeah, like no fun.
That's that's their association is mad farmers and ranchers. They don't see the happy, proactive messaging like cows going to grass and saying make good choices. Like, they don't see that side of things if we're not sharing them and we're only online and vocal when we're mad about something.
And even still, if you're Joe Schmo, middle of the city, have one farmer on your Facebook or whatever, and that person is constantly whining and complaining,
Not a good look.
not a good look, right?
So one question before then we open it up to the audience. You can ask those via the app. You can raise your hand, and we'll have a microphone floating around. So we've got a little less than 20 minutes that we can get to some of your questions. But before we do that, you've obviously learned a lot in your time. A lot has changed, whether it be, how you use social media, not writing, making sure that you put your blog post in a couple paragraphs so then it drives people there, but making sure that that message still gets out, things that you would have done differently. You've learned a lot. But now it's 2022. Where do you think this goes from here?
I hope. We were talking about this. We were going to call an audible.
We might still call it audible.
Well,
I think
we're going to talk about it right now, I think.
All right, I'm the old lady. What?
No, you were back there. You were in
You were in there. You're in. You're fine.
You were in part of this. You were part of this, yes.
Okay.
So, starting in, and we've heard it said from the stage, we'll probably hear it some more. We're going to hear, you need to educate people about farming and ranching, right? I would wish, listen, hold your thoughts here. Stop educating people. Stop calling them dumb. Because when you say, hey, I want to educate you, what you're saying is you're dumb. And that's not really a great way to start a conversation. But I always say, let's go away from education and go more towards influencing. And I'll tell the super quick story. Father-in-law, drop a quarter through his wedding band, bear paws. Goes to the grocery store, sees a mom buying milk. He stops, he says thank you, he shakes her hand. The next time she buys milk, she thinks of that bear paw of a hand, and it doesn't matter what HSUS told her. She is going to think of that dairy farmer, and he did not educate her one bit. He just influenced. We got to have these conversations. So, Brandi can...
Yeah. I got into, I can't even say what platform it was on.
One of them.
One of them. And I was on this platform and I said that, like, every time I hear the phrase, we need to educate consumers or grocery shoppers, there's a nerve that goes down my spine that has like a seizure. And I've written about this before, this like educate thing. And like whenever I hear the phrase educate, I think of a teacher standing at the front of the room and like talking at me when I was in trigonometry. Yeah, and I didn't want to be there and listen to that. And so I was having this conversation and this other person told me like, well, when we present, we tell them what we're going to talk about and then we do a presentation and then we ask questions at the end. And I said, have you ever thought about like doing the question and answer at the beginning of it and seeing like what the people, like what does your audience want to learn? And obviously it's dependent on your audience. If you're talking to a group of producers, you're not going to get the same kind of questions. You may be there for a specific task. But if you're talking to like a group of dietitians or something like that, it might be wise to ask them, what would you like to learn from me today? Or like, what questions can I answer for you about cattle, beef, ranching? Like, what specifically did you come here to want to learn? And this person was just like, just whatever. I'm not right about everything, and there's lots of different ways to do things. Like, so I totally know that, but I still think like, we can't just talk at people. Like she's talking about influencing and I use the phrase engaging. Like I want to have engagement and like actually have people ask, like anytime I get a comment on Facebook that is not calling me a bad mom, but is also, which happens a lot, and then also is asking me like, one of the most recent ones I got was like, what is a stalker? Like we run 2 turns of stalkers a year. Like what's a stalker? Like you may not think that's a big deal, but like that person doesn't know what a stalker animal is. And like they're there to learn about ranch life and I got to tell them that. Like that's a huge win for me. Like that's the kind of stuff I tell my husband about at the end of the day. Like this guy wanted to know about stalker cattle. And I'm trying to engage with people. So I try to end like all my blog posts or social media things in like, how can I serve you? What can I give you more of that you want to see or that you want to hear about? And so for me, that's why I'm just trying to not move in that like educate space, because I don't want to talk at people. I want to have conversations with people.
I think that's awesome. I'm going to take just a slightly different path with that, and I totally support what these 2 ladies have said, but I also want to say, oh, that was you. I'm like, I didn't do that. I also want to say one of the things that just frustrates me that used to happen all the time, doesn't happen quite as much, is we use our social media as an individual marketing for ourselves only. So in other words, what I mean is we talk about, I do this right, I'm good at this, I'm the best rancher, I'm regenerative, I raise Angus cattle, I. That means the rest of you aren't. Right? Hello. If people turn off of beef because they can't get my beef, my whole point is gone. So I have really started to focus more on the conversation specifically for beef for me, but this can happen with absolutely any commodity, any livestock. But talking about the beef as a whole, American beef is the most sustainable beef in the world, period. Let them ask questions. Right? Now let's talk about why. Let's talk about how. I didn't sell you Debbie's beef, right? I've had consumers ask me, oh my gosh, where can I get your beef? I want your beef. And I say, guess what? Go to the grocery store. Go to the restaurant. Because I am not big enough to market direct, right? And I think as farmers and ranchers, we are really accustomed to kind of fighting against each other. Right? We have to differentiate ourselves in some way so that we get more money at markets, so that we, can sell our product a little bit higher. But as a whole, the instant that you start pointing the fingers and saying that the other people in your industry are bad, people are going to turn off the entire industry. I think we've got to come to the point where we're talking about American beef, American soy, and talk more about the product as a whole.
And I think sometimes there's, you're scared that what if I ask, say something, I get a question that I don't know the answer to, where do I go? And so, where do you go if you don't know the answer to a question that they ask?
First of all, I just say, I'm not really sure. Give me a minute and I'll search. But I think that's a really good opportunity to explain that when you search for something and you click on that answer, Google then gives you more of what you clicked on. Right? So if you click on where do beef come from, right? Or how are cows raised? And you click on a vegetarian website, guess what? You're going to get more of that. And that's a great opportunity to explain, look at where you're getting your information.
Yeah.
Right? Don't just click on just anything, because it's all out there.
Yep.
But it doesn't mean it's all good information.
Right. Yeah. And deciphering what is good and what is not it can be challenging for a consumer.
Can be very.
Okay, questions out in the audience, just raise your hand. We have some microphones going around.
We're going to start with an app question, but please do raise, so we'll get the other, can you go to one of the folks with their hands up? Go ahead and stand by them, so we're ready for the next question.
Hannah's in the back.
Oh, okay.
There's a question in the app that uses the word educate, so I'm going to just skip that. But it came in before the last few minutes of discussion, so we'll forgive that one.
Send it
But the top question in the app right now is that it seems like a lot of online ag influencers primarily have an ag following. So how do we make sure we're reaching outside of the choir, and how do we measure our effectiveness at doing that?
That has always been a challenge, and it is not easy. I don't know who to look at to tell you how to do this, but you guys, it is not easy. I have recently not closed down my Instagram account, but I've divided it. Because I would, I'm the old lady, right? So I was searching through reels. I'm like, I gotta do reels. I gotta do all these reels, and I gotta see them. Trying to see how farmers do reels. Guess what? Once again, the algorithm, as soon as you start looking at farmer reels, what do you get? You only get farmer stuff. And I'm sorry, I don't care what y'all are doing. That's not my audience. That's not who I want to connect with. So I have an Instagram account now called Kids, Cows, and Grass, and if a farmer comments on it, I'm pretty much ignoring you. Thank you, but I'm pretty much ignoring you. I want more of the influencers that I have been connecting with and trying hard to. Back in the day when I very first started Instagram, I would look and see that gal that I talk about, my husband's cousin's daughter, and I would look and see who are her friends. Who does she follow, right? And so I have really curated the people in that account. Now I have another account called Debbie.lb. That's my farmer account, right? So now I can still search and learn and figure out how to do stupid reels, right? I can't do them, but it's a separate. And so my goal is with those is to keep those audiences separate. And I'm not getting the huge numbers, right? But I am getting the right people commenting and liking that are not agriculture people. And to me, that is the biggest win. If I can connect with one or two, that's a win.
Oh, go ahead if you want to add to that.
I was just say for me, like I don't have two accounts because I don't
You can barely keep up with one.
I just do not want to do that. I am creating like content with that older millennial parent that's looking for information for food. I'm creating it for them, cognizant of the fact that a lot of my audience is agriculture. And so like if, for example, like if Debbie and Carrie, sorry, I don't so have it. I'm sorry.
Used to it, man.
Might as well just change your
Debbie and Carrie ask, like they share something of mine, like Carrie and Debbie's audiences are not only agriculture. So like I'm cognizant of the fact that they are going to share them and I'm getting those agriculture shares, but their audience is not all ag people. So I'm reaching non-ag people through like these fingers of ag people. And I do have people, like a lot of people on Facebook. More of my Facebook audience is grocery shoppers than on Instagram, I think. And so they're seeing more of that. But everything that I create is for that grocery shopper, but there's still a ton of ag people that share it, knowing that they're also sharing it with their networks that are not only ag.
I target the moms and dietitians and foodies in my area very specifically. I have unfollowed almost every farmer out there unless they're like a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry if I've unfollowed you and we're friends. Like, that's not what I mean. But like, I'm very specific in my time online, and I can't. And in my head, I'm going, Carrie, don't say this. We're going to say it. I've also shared some very inflammatory things to a lot of people in agriculture, and they just leave. Yeah,
It's not for them.
Well, that's all right. I'm sharing for the people that I want to talk to. And that is what I'm after. And if those issues are important to them, I'm going to talk about them too.
Good. Question out there?
Hello. Quick question. There's been a popular television show on lately about ranching that has quite a few exaggerations, inaccuracies, fallacies. But I just wondered if you guys saw any feedback, positive or negative, just for more people in the general public being exposed to showing the ranching lifestyle and kind of the reality of it, and Taylor Sheridan kind of providing his own spin.
Can I say the name of the show? Is that okay? Like, I use Yellowstone as a way to hook people in to go to learn more about our realistic ranch, or I don't ranch in Montana, so maybe that's what it's like, I don't know. But there's no train stations. There's a train track in my backyard, but we don't take people to the train station in Southeast Kansas. So, I'm using it that's like, are you interested in Yellowstone? Like, this is what happens on our ranch, or something. Like, I'm kind of using them to help create more awareness around our ranch. Like, I wasn't watching the show at the time that there was a line that Kevin Costner said that was like, well, then, why do we do it, Grandpa? And he was like, it's the best life there is. I don't know. It was something like that. I didn't watch the show at the time, but I saw the little clip, and I made a meme of it and shared it, and it brought in huge numbers of people to my Facebook page. And they're still there, and so I'm still talking about our ranch, even though it looks nothing like the Yellowstone ranch, unfortunately. Yeah, so I use it. It's all. Well, I'd love to have that house and that arena. Hello.
I guess,
but so I'm just using it. I understand it's TV and it's dramatized and stuff like that, but I'm trying to use it to bring people in, because now a whole faction of the United States is suddenly interested in ranching, and if I can hit on the right SEO and get them into my network, and then they can learn more about specifically about their food. So I understand that Yellowstone gets a lot of things. They miss a lot of things, but I'm trying to capitalize on the things they do get right.
I'm watching more Bluey than anything else lately, so I'm really just focusing on the other moms who are stuck on Bluey. I watched 20 minutes of one episode, and there was a snake in a cooler, and I was out.
I can relate to that. Okay, question over here.
There was a
Oh, yep, right there.
So, as being seasoned ag aggregators, I'm wondering what you would say to the ag companies in the room about helping advocates. What would you like them to do?
So can you say that again? I'm sorry, I don't think I understood.
So, for the ag companies that are in the room, right? How would you like them to help support advocates out there? Like, what would you like them to do for you guys?
So that's a really awesome question, and I'm not going to say I have the perfect answer for that. And my daughter-in-law works for a company that is in allied industry and wants to support and do the right thing too. So part of me says we don't want to be tied to one individual company and then beholden and that kind of thing. But yet, this isn't for pay. Right, we don't get paid to do this very often, so it's a tough question. I think for me, it's a support situation. You help me retweet, you help me host something at my house, you help me connect with people that I can't connect with. You maybe have me speak to a group in your company, right? I feel like that. Just giving me that new audience and new opportunity is what I would love to be able to work with any brands around.
Brandi and I think, are on the same page. You want to help us, pay us.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm being honest here.
I'm going to share an email I sent
Yes.
to a brand the other day, and it's not an ag brand, okay? So I got a influencer email or something like that, and this was the coolest product. I so much wanted to do this, and it was like a fire gun that you lit your grill with. It's like the coolest thing. It was like a torch gun. It's called I won't say what it's called, but like they sent me this and they said, we'd like to have you promote the product or whatever. And I went to the website and it was like, punch your man card with this, and I was like, I don't want a man card. I like the card I have. So I sent an email, and the payment for the product, or the payment for the thing, was the product. And so I sent an email back that said, one, I appreciate this. I'm turned off of your product because it says punch a man card, and it's very specifically targeted at one audience. And I'm going to find your competitor and buy from them because I'm a woman and I like to grill. The second thing I said was maybe you didn't get the memo, but we're not doing this anymore. We're not asking creators to do a lot of work for us and not pay them. And that brand is not coming back to me, obviously. However, if you would like advocates, whatever you want to call us, to help you reach people, be cognizant of the fact that we are all, for years and years and years, we have put in time into building our audience. I mean, I've been on Facebook since 2010 and started a blog since 2008 and have been working at this a really long time to create these audiences. And so when we get approached by brands that are like, hey, will you do all these posts for us and stuff like that, it's a real turnoff if you're just kind of wanting it for product. And so in my opinion, if you want us to help you reach a new audience, let's be mutually beneficial together. We create really good content. There are other advocates in this room who create awesome content that can be meaningful, but our time is valuable because we have kids and other businesses and some full-time jobs and things of that nature, and just like y'all, our time is valuable.
We've been doing this before influencer marketing was a thing.
Yeah.
We have years of just blood, sweat, and tears poured into what we've done. And so we're not greedy. We're just trying to...
It takes a lot of time to
reciprocate.
Yeah. And when I say I don't want paid, it's not in the same what you're saying. Go ahead and throw me for a post or two or whatever. Yeah, but I think it's hard because back in the day it was more of you worked for this company, right? And so there's another change that we've seen.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot has happened in
different.
15 years.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to one last question real quick.
Uh-oh.
All right, so this is not a question, but more of a comment. Debbie, I appreciated what you said about elevating everyone and being positive versus unintentionally, perhaps against things. I work in traditional advocacy, and for 13 years, and I spent a bulk of that explaining why our own industry is fighting inside of each other. And I think about the issues that are coming, the truly scary, complicated, we're going to need a unifying voice, and I think your approach is one, when we face those issues, we've got to be ready for it. So thank you for that comment.
Well, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'm the incoming chairman of the U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef, and our foundation is we are working towards proving that American beef is all sustainable, period, end, and getting better every year. And that's where I'm coming from today.
Awesome. All right, last question.
Well, first of all, thank you, ladies, for being up there. You're inspiring. It was great to listen to what you have to say. Yes, those bright lights are on you.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't see you. It is literally, we do not know what you look like right now because all we see is the light.
Really good looking.
Okay. I mean, from the voice, I'm envisioning Brad Pitt kind of, but you have a halo.
Okay.
Yeah.
My question to you is, when somebody... There's several of us in this room here that I see I'm going to call seasoned. We're a little older than rest, and we're not all as we're technically challenged, I guess. I'll just leave it at that. So when somebody starts hammering you on your blog, how do you handle that? How do you shut that off? Do you shut it off? I made the mistake one time. I watched this whole thing, and I just couldn't take it anymore, so I made a comment on somebody else's, only to find out that, holy cow, I mean, I took so many bullets, it was unreal, and I couldn't delete it, I couldn't get out of it, I had to just sit there and take it. So I will never do that again. But what do you do when someone comes back really negative on you? How do you handle that? Or can you just kind of hide that?
I think we've all had that happen. I'm just going to say one thing. Number one, I don't have to take that crap. It's my blog. And if you are doing that to me, I can block you, get you out of there. That's not productive, and I am not going to change that person's mind. Everybody else watching just watches those pigs wrestle in the mud, right? That's not helping at all for me.
If it's like if it's a criticism that I feel like I can address, like correct a misconception, I'll acknowledge it and talk. If it's just like calling me like being cruel or using hate terms, block and release. Bye-bye. And if it's something that like they're just being facetious and nitpicky, like, and every once in a while I get like vegans will attack me, attack me. Like, I'm not going to change the mind of a really staunch vegan, and I'll just release that. Because now I've gotten this audience at some point that like will run to defend. Yeah. And so, you know, I don't have to respond to every comment. Like, I've done that for Carrie, or not for Carrie, but like I've done on Carrie's comments. Like, I've seen people saying stuff, and I've like commented on things because I know Carrie can't get to every comment because Carrie's following is gigantic. So
I have thousands and thousands of vegans blocked on my pages, honestly. And it used to be that unless you called me like a murderer, Nazi, or racist, you could be there. I might not like you, but you could be there and have the conversation. And that helped to build my page, honestly. But I realized that when I go online and all I see is that arguing and nastiness back and forth, whether it's on the local news station or an article, I don't like it. So this is my house, my rules. We don't do that anymore. And now I have farmers blocked too, because that's not what we're doing. That's not what we're doing here. That's not why I'm here. That's not where I'm going to invest my time and energy. It's just not.
And how do you not take it personally? I mean, when they're attacking you, like you said, as a mom. I mean, you may be an influencer, an advocate, and you're online, but you're a human being as well that has feelings, and I know it's hard to sometimes let some of that go. So how do you move past that?
I have a 5-year-old and a 9-month-old, and when I get home tonight, the 5-year-old is going to yell "Mama" and like run to me and like attack my neck. And the 9-month-old is going to start flapping her arms and being really excited. So I don't give a flying flip if someone calls me a bad mom, because I'm not. But that's pretty simple.
Well, I do give a flying flip. It's hard for me to disconnect from that, right?
We are all different women.
Yeah.
We love each other.
It's really, this is great.
These two.
It really gets to me. Yeah. It really gets to me when people directly say lies about me, right? Things that are inappropriate. So I'm really good at the blocking thing and just moving on. But it does really get to me. But it also creates some introspection, right? Okay, so where are they coming from? You got to give them a little grace. Where are they coming from? Are they just hiding? Are they just angry? Okay, if that's the case, gone. Do they maybe have a point that I'm missing? Maybe I need to look at their perspective, right?
What if they're calling you a bad mom?
If they're calling me a bad mom, then maybe I did something wrong, but see, that's me. That's the way I deal with it.
Mom, you're going to call us.
I'll call my kids. Send my kids,
we love
right?
you. You're the amazing.
It is very, very, very hard, Tyne, and we have become very harsh on social media. Yeah. And so the other thing is, I have kind of taken a break from social media. I've had some natural disasters and some really rough things happen in our place, and I haven't really posted about it right now. I am not ready to deal with the comments right now. So it's okay to take a break. It's okay. And I've stepped away. I'll be back, but not yet.
I get it. I usually deal with it by like putting down my phone, turning on all kinds of kinds, and grabbing a cold beer and just being like, you guys go fight, whatever. I'm just divorcing that energy.
I love
I'm
that.
done.
Divorcing that energy?
I don't know. I just came up with it.
That just rolled
Divorce
right.
that energy. No, I'm just not here for it. I'm just not.
I love
Proud of
that.
you. You guys are great.
Because it'll burn you out.
It will.
It'll burn you out fast.
And I know sometimes easier said than done.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, real quick, just to wrap things up, what is the one thing that you want to leave Summit attendees with? Carrie, I'll start with you.
I'm so glad she started with that.
Well, I saw you look, and I'm just like, okay, Carrie.
You guys, here's what I want you to know. We are all out here doing our dang best. And we all farm differently. We all do things differently. We all have different audiences. We all have different perspectives, different values, different viewpoints. And all of those are valid. And I might not like another one, but I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And you might not like it, but shut up. Honestly, like, just go do your thing.
Go
you don't
do
have
yours.
to come rain on my parade. We're all working to try to do better for our industry. So that's what I think.
That's perfect. I think my take home today is that so much has changed. I mean, seriously, in the 60s and 70s, we just grew the food. We didn't talk to consumers. They bought what was in the store. Today, that is not the way it works. Consumers want to know these answers. And so we need to be open to talking to them. We need to be open to giving the retailers the information to take to consumers, too. Right? So we need to get that conversation happening all the time. Here's the other one, though, that we often forget that I think is really, really important. We need to keep talking to our legislators, right? Because if we are not in communication with our legislators about what agriculture is doing and where we're going, we're going to be legislated out of business, and we cannot handle that. She says thank you. Good.
Brandi?
Oh, I thought I was going to get out of this.
Nope.
Nope, you're in.
These were great, valuable points, and I would like to just say, like, endorse. There is no right, there is no one right way to do advocacy or influencing or engagement, whatever we want to call it.
There's probably some bad ways, though.
There are probably some things that we shouldn't be doing, which we just explained. Right. But there is no one right way to do things. So don't be afraid to try something new, like design the T-shirts, like create a tagline, do a reel, write a new blog. Like, don't be afraid to try something new. Just while you're trying something new, like, don't run over your fellow advocates while you're doing it. Like, we are all on the same dang team. Right. So, like, let's not throw each other under the bus.
Exactly.
Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you all. We appreciate it.